Hello, my name is Scott Norton. I'm the director at Allen Jack+Cottier Architects. The project I'm presenting today is Stage 81 at Botanica, Lidcombe, otherwise known as the Gallery. Allen Jack+Cottier was commissioned by Australand in 2005 to design the adaptive reuse of several buildings over a number of stages at the former Lidcombe Hospital site. There are a number of people who collaborated on this project, and the successful result is a credit to their contribution, not the least of which was the developer themselves, who deserves a lot of credit for their respectful approach. The site was originally developed in 1887 as a boys' reformatory and model farm, but evolved through its life as an asylum for the infirm and destitute, a state hospital and home, and a regional geriatric centre. At one time, it was the largest medical care asylum in the Commonwealth, and from 1976, it was the primary training facility for nursing in Sydney. The hospital was closed in 1995. The site is located at Lidcombe, 14 kilometres west of the Sydney CBD, close to Rookwood Cemetery and accessed from Joseph Street. The site itself is quite extensive, with the Heritage Precinct at its core. The Heritage Precinct has been voluntarily nominated by Australand for listing on the Heritage Register. Each building, landscaped elements and roads were assessed and graded during the conservation management planning process, with most of the buildings around the village green being of exceptional significance. Our project is the first completed stage for adaptive reuse in the Heritage Precinct. The project is located to the southwest side of the village green and comprises of 4 ward buildings by government architect Walter Liberty Vernon, built from 1893 to 1900, and the Superintendent's Cottage built in 1887, designed by colonial architect James Barnett. Interestingly, the ward buildings were built progressively in pairs across the village green, starting from the south. This proved to be extremely useful in determining original features and detailing, which were often intact on at least one building from the pair. This is an overall plan of the project showing the relationship of the buildings. The Superintendent's Cottage remains a single residence, and each ward building was converted to 2 modern and oversized apartments. The Superintendent's Cottage is Victorian in style and was one of the original buildings on the site. It had been left in poor condition over the years, with unsympathetic additions and alterations and internal disrepair. The building is well-mannered and handsome in appearance, with a series of compartmentalised rooms over 2 stories. We restored the original features, and the only contemporary external additions were a louvered veranda, carport and pergola to the rear. The interiors are contemporary and functional for the modern lifestyle. The ward buildings by Vernon are all similar in form and feature pitched roofs and wraparound verandas. Again, a number of unsympathetic additions have been added over the years, and the building fabric was in a bad state of disrepair. Our approach was to retain and restore as much of the existing external fabric as possible. The styles of the buildings varied due to the progressive construction, but all followed the same general form. Each large main dormitory building has a central entrance off the village green and a series of outbuildings to the rear, which were used for ablutions and dining. This is a typical plan, which shows the retained central entrance and common entry hall. From this, 2 apartments are accessed, and this was guided by conserving the existing features and character from the village green. Due to the space we had to work with, the apartments are larger and more house-like in character than what you would expect, taking advantage of the volume, the ancillary rooms, and the wraparound verandas. The verandas have become wonderful spaces on which to sit and survey activity on the village green. Only minimal changes to windows and doors were possible, so this determined locations of internal walls and the general layouts. The restored original decorative fabric now sits happily alongside distinctly modern insertions. To the rear of the buildings were a collection of small, ramshackle outbuildings, which had all suffered from neglect and modification. We located the smaller functions of the apartments in these rear buildings and accessed them by verandas. There was more opportunity here to add pared-back contemporary materials and styling, although the basic forms had to be retained. Contemporary screens and fences that are not visible from the public realm divide separate outdoor spaces without disturbing the general character of the buildings. Internally, the main dormitory buildings were used to locate the large open-plan living rooms. We were able to retain existing timber columns and beams and a sense of the original space. New elements read as distinct modern boxes in the space, and the smaller, more private rooms are located in the rear outbuildings. Generally, finishes are crisp and contemporary to contrast with the existing heritage fabric. The village green was present in its most basic form back at the beginning of development in the 1880s and became more formalised as buildings were progressively added around the perimeter. It's often described as one of the most beautiful public greens in Sydney. To retain the original relationship of the buildings to the village green, landscaping was used rather than front fences. The front yards are also community titled and managed, so there will always be a consistency in appearance. In conclusion, we believe this project is unique in that significant heritage buildings have been adapted for residential reuse by a developer. The approach taken has resulted in a highly attractive and marketable product, and the precinct is already becoming a vibrant, beautiful neighbourhood. Thank you.